Movement Day is not over just yet.
Woohoo! USA! USA!
We have an action-packed hour for you 6 p.m. drivers.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for November 1st, 2024. I'm Matt Skraby, and if you would like to watch the show, you can. Just go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan. It'll be right there for you to watch. You can also, if you would like, go to X, at Matt Skraby, MATTSKRAB as in boy Y, or you can go to at 97.3 The Fan SD. I have retweeted it there. Thanks to everybody who's been with us this week. It's been a long, short week. I know I missed Wednesday due to golf. We never got to talk about golf. So here in this segment, we'll talk about golf for a second, and then we will talk about some of the other rules in the clubhouse that we were talking about during Gwen and Chris. So I will, if you have any questions, I've already seen some questions pop up there. If you have any questions about the clubhouse or any sort of thing you've ever really wondered about working in radio and working with the Padres, go ahead and ask the question in the chat on 97.3 The Fan YouTube. Aztecs are having a really tough time right now, everybody. Let me play this. Well, this is just great, everybody, because they are now down after this point after touchdown. The Aztecs are down 28-0 here with 11:35 to go in the second quarter. It's been really tough for the Aztecs. Not even, I hate to say it this way, but it's true. They're not even competing right now on at the same level at all of Boise State. I mean, Danny O'Neal has had a couple interceptions. They had a pick six. They punted in the first 45 seconds of the game, so it's struggle. It's, as Tony may say, struggle sauce. Struggle sauce is what is going on with the Aztecs right now. But honestly, I kind of expected it. New coach, new players, true freshman quarterback. He's not going to just come in and be amazing. So hopefully this is just, learning for the future, but it's not going well for the Aztecs right now. 28-0. I will let everybody know if anything else happens in that game. But golf the other day was pretty fun. If you don't know, I got shoulder surgery in beginning of June, and I've played golf most of my life, like most that I can't remember a time where I didn't play golf. So this was probably one of the longer stretches of no golf in my life, of like 4.5 months. So I was happy to get back out there. Was very, very worried, honestly, about my shoulder. I was worried that it was going to be hurt again, and I was going to have to get more surgery, but that's not true because I asked my doctor. But really what I found out there about golf is I'm finally to the point as a golfer where I have accepted I'm just not that good. I mean, I'm good enough. I can be competitive. I can shoot. I've shot under 90 on a full course, not many times. It's not a handful. I've done it more than 10 times, but I have just come to the conclusion that if I hit a bad shot, I hit a bad shot. That's it. I move on with my day. I used to take golf very seriously. I used to take golf like I took fantasy football very, very seriously, which, by the way, we are going to get into some fantasy football talk here in later on in the Skraby Show. But I used to take fantasy football so seriously, it affected one of my past relationships. We were in the same fantasy football league. I was undefeated going into the playoffs, and I lost to her because she had Jamal Charles scoring 5 touchdowns in a game and eliminated me. Like, her team was not very good, barely made the playoffs. And this was a way different me. This was more than 10 years ago. And I would be happy to say I wouldn't handle it the same now that I did back 10, 15 years ago. So I've grown from it. but it used to make me very, very mad. Golf used to make me very, very mad too. But I'm not a professional. I finally, I don't know what it was, but I finally understood it. I'm not a professional. So there you go. It's what I have to face. I'm not going to hit every shot perfect. I'm not going to shoot under par. I can get better, but I just have to accept that it's not going to be, Tiger Woods-esque or anything like that. All right, let's go to the chat. See who's over there. We'll get the roll call as people are calling it. We got Nate Castro, Katrina. She says, we turned back time this weekend. Q drop. Where is it? Wrong mouse. Gain 1 hour of sleep, but it's dark way too early. I mean, I'm already here doing the show when it gets dark, so it doesn't matter to me when it gets dark. I understand that other people are out there doing things like in the afternoon, but I'm here, so it doesn't really matter to me. It does matter to me on the weekends because you can't golf as late. But yes, we are turning back time here on Sunday. The clubhouse. I don't think I made it through all of the chat, actually. Rod and McKee, Dan, Thomas, we have Paul, we have Nate, we have Jax, Brandon, we got everybody in here. Jacob, I know I'm probably missing a few people. Mike McD. Hey, Mike McD, what's going on? We got Rod, Joseph Navarro. Joseph says, I feel like once you admit you suck at golf, the more fun playing golf becomes. That is 100% true, Joseph. Once you realize it, you move on with your life. Maria is also in the chat. Thank you, Maria, for being here. Thanks to everybody for checking in on a Friday night after Halloween. I feel like people are kind of, I don't know, taking today like it's a 3-day weekend. It's been kind of slow on the roads. It's been kind of slow here on the chat, except for all you chatters that are here with me. I appreciate that. But I think people are kind of recovering from their Halloween last night. And if you want to know what we did for Halloween last night, you can go back to Gwen and Chris. And you can listen in the first segment. I dressed up my dog Lucky. He was a small fry is what the hat says, but it's just a bunch of French fries on top of his head. You can go to my Instagram or Twitter at Matt Skraby, MattsKrab, as in boy, why? Now, back to the clubhouse questions, and M. McKee put one in there, and I cannot find it now because, here it is. My question, how does it work with women media in the clubhouse? Do they kick everyone out at a certain time? Now, this would be a better question for Annie Halbrin, but from what I've seen, they don't kick you out. And women are allowed in the clubhouse. They do sometimes kick out all of the media. Like I remember one time that one of the coaches became a citizen, American citizen, so they had a celebration, and it was during the media time, so they asked us just to wait outside for like 10 minutes while they did something. And of course, as media people, this was 2 years ago, so it was during a time when they were struggling, and so us media people out there were like, are they having a meeting in there? Are they like doing a team meeting, coming to, Jesus type of talk? No, they were just celebrating one of their own becoming an American citizen. But women are definitely allowed into the clubhouse, and usually guys don't change as much in front of their locker anymore. And there are times where we come in there, and I should say I'm definitely not someone who goes in there a lot. I did go in there quite a few times this year, and I've been in there for some of the celebrations, but I got to tell you, when the first time I ever went in there into the Padres clubhouse, I was extremely intimidated. It was kind of scary a little bit because here I am, little old me, Matt Skraby, trying to get audio from some of the best baseball players in the world. And everybody knows I'm a little awkward, so I just didn't say anything. I just did my job. I was very nervous about it. And I got to say, every time I've gone in there after, I'm still a little nervous about it. But it's only because, I just want to respect everything. I don't want to cause any problems, and I won't cause any problems. But there are a few rules that I didn't know about, and they just let you know, hey, you can't do that, whatever. The rules we talked about earlier, where you can't you have to stand in the middle of the room on the big Padres logo, and you cannot sit in like the leather chairs that the Padres have set up for the players, and you can't go up to a player who is busy at their locker. They kind of have to be available. It's kind of one of those days where you look at them, and if they seem like they're inviting you to come ask them questions, then you can go over there. But if they seem busy, don't go over there. Also, you can't talk to the starting pitcher. And there's many areas, but for the most part, the clubhouse is pretty accommodating. It is the Padres' house. That is their home. So everybody in there wants to treat it very well, and everybody in there does. But there's always that, like, when things get busy, like towards the end of the year or in the playoffs, there's always the reporters that come in that are national reporters or are, reporters that aren't as well known nationally. But there's always the pushing and not shoving, but there's always like you have to get into position. You have to fight your way into position. And thankfully, I'm a little bit of a bigger guy, so it's easy for me to put myself in there. It's like because I'm 6 feet tall, so it was easy for me to get in there. But there are some people that like weasel their way in. They like get in there, and it's really kind of annoying. It's actually when you stand around a player and you're trying to get audio from them, it's not the easiest thing in the world because again, you have to find your position, and then people are kind of pushing you from the back. So I'm not saying that my job or Sam's job or Annie's job or anybody who goes into the clubhouse, it's like a terrible thing. But it is a little bit difficult at times when you got a lot of reporters. A lot of reporters push you out of the way. And I personally believe if you are in a clubhouse, local reporters should be able to ask questions first. And it's kind of like a free-for-all a little bit. It's like once the player's done answering, it's 3 other people going with their question, and then one person always wins out. So there's a lot of competition. Joseph says, do you think the players prefer getting asked questions in the clubhouse or on a podium like they do in football? I think they prefer getting questions asked in the clubhouse. It's more of an informal setting, so it's not as you're not on the spot as much when you're just talking to someone in a clubhouse. It's honestly a very humbling experience because as a guy who didn't grow up going to MLB clubhouses, just sometimes I sit there and I look around and I'm like, wow, how did I get in here? And how did I end up getting the pass to stay in here? All right. Dominic says, yo, Skraby. Hello, Dominic. Everybody's talking about funny movies on the chat. We're going to head to break. When we get back, we are going to talk about second base a little bit for the Padres in 2025. We're also going to talk about Snapdragon Stadium and what's going on there. And then to close out the show, we're going to do some fantasy football advice. I'm going to try this out, see how it works. I've seen some submissions out there, so I appreciate that. Stick with me here on the Skraby Show. We will be with you until 7 p.m. Aztecs on the board with a field goal, 28-3 in the second quarter. In Boise, Idaho, 9:12 left. We'll be back shortly on 97.3 The Fan.
Hey, it's Ben Higgins.
Matt Skraby, the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. Thank you for joining me here on a Friday night. I know a couple people said that they're out and about driving around, so thank you for listening. I don't know how many people still listen to their car radio, because I know a lot of people that watch on YouTube. I know a lot of people that will dial up the Odyssey app, and I also know a lot of people watch on YouTube, but they actually don't watch while they're driving. They just connect it so that you can hear it while you're driving, and it's basically like listening through a radio. But I don't know how many people actually listen to their radio. I actually have a real radio, everybody. I have a real one where you like kind of dial it and everything. And I have an emergency radio that you like crank to get power into it in case we have an earthquake or something like that. But I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure that there are a ton of people that still listen to a radio. I don't think anybody's listening to the radio in their house, like an actual radio in their house. They're probably listening to some other digital offering that we have. You can watch us on YouTube if you want. Just go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan. You'll see the Skraby Show right there, broadcasting live. Aztecs are driving right now. 6:40 left in the second quarter. They are on their 12-yard line, down 28-3 with the against the Boise State Broncos, and so I'll let you know if they score a touchdown. But that would be big if they were able to come back and score a touchdown, because it looked really bad there for a second. Looked really bad. In this segment, we're going to talk about second base. We're going to talk about Snapdragon Stadium. Let's just start with Snapdragon Stadium. If you haven't heard, Snapdragon Stadium and the Wave, well, at least the Wave, have announced that they are going to be playing their game this weekend in Louisville, Kentucky, because the grass at Snapdragon Stadium isn't safe enough for professional athletes to be playing on it. And I agree with them. Here is the tweet from the Wave. It said, match update, San Diego Wave FC versus Racing Louisville FC match relocated to Louisville due to Snapdragon Stadium field conditions. So they're not even just moving it down the street. They're completely taking this game and moving it to Kentucky because the field is just not good enough for professional athletes to play on. And I talked about this, I think, on Tuesday, the field being so bad and having so much sand and just looking not great. And we talked about it earlier on the show, and we came to the conclusion that there's too many events going on the field. There's football, there's soccer, there's other university events. The SDFC is going to be playing at Snapdragon Stadium. The Wave already plays at Snapdragon Stadium. They've hosted some big-time women's soccer events at Snapdragon Stadium. And this, I hate to come down on people that I don't even, obviously know who takes care of the grass at Snapdragon Stadium. Because I'm sure that they're aware that the field is not great. And I'm sure that they're trying what they can to get the field in a good condition. But it just seems kind of deflating to me that you have this brand new, nice stadium, and now you're having to move games because the field isn't up to snuff. And I also think, there are stadiums that have struggled with grass. San Diego doesn't seem like one of those places where it should struggle growing grass. I know I've brought this up many times, but the 49ers, when they built their new stadium, they had a really, really hard time getting their grass to grow into the field. And so now it's okay. But they had a really hard time. They had to put down a lot of sand. They had to try to keep the grass together. And it's one of those things where it's like, come on, we got to figure this out. We're in one of the sunniest places in the world, and we're not growing grass correctly. And again, I don't want to come down on anyone too hard because no one's trying for this to happen. It did. It's just to me, it's not a good look. It's I hate to use the word embarrassing, but it's slightly embarrassing because you have this brand new stadium that can't be played in because the grass isn't good enough. But I am sure that they are going to figure it out. I am sure that they are going to I'm sure that they're going to try to get this fixed as soon as possible because they don't want to lose any more events. The Aztecs play next week at home, I believe, against New Mexico. We'll see if it's okay for football to play on it, maybe soccer. They just didn't want to play on it because it was rough. There were patches that they had replaced, and I know I'm just piling on at this point, but Snapdragon Stadium themselves sent a message out, a statement saying that here is what they said. We are disappointed with the National Women's Soccer League's decision to move Sunday's match from Snapdragon Stadium. Although we recognize the aesthetics of the field do not meet our desired expectations, we are confident in our readiness to play a match on Sunday in safe conditions. Several factors, including high demand for field use and weather, have affected the turf, but we are dedicated to investing resources, specialized expertise, and advanced technology to address these challenges going forward. There's a little bit more in the statement, but at least Snapdragon Stadium knows that there's an issue and knows that they need to get it done. And I really hope that they follow through on that, because there are people that go to college to grow grass. I know one who does it on a golf course. He takes care of all the grass. He went to college to be a grass guy. I call him the grass guy. And I know it can be done. And I know it can be done here in San Diego. And I hope it's done quick so that we can get some more events on that field ready to go ASAP. Paul said Qualcomm had the same problem with the grass. I did not know that. In response to, do people still listen on the actual radio? Jack says they're listening on their toaster, so that's good. I'm glad I'm coming in loud and clear on your toaster. Blackjack says I only listen on the radio. Thank you. Joseph, honestly, the only time I listen to the radio is when I listen to you guys. Dan says, listen to the radio on my way into work all the time. Dominic says, I listen to the radio in my house, but I'm almost 50. And the Water Heater Factory says, I'm listening on the radio right now, out and about, driving around. Well, thanks, everybody. And McKee, I use a clock radio set to 97.3 for my alarm. That is old school. I actually need to, when I worked mornings in radio, I would get up at 3:45 a.m. and I would have to be out of my house by 4:15 a.m. so that I can get to the studio by 5 a.m. because I live in North County, and then I would have an hour before the show. But I had to put number one, I set like 17 alarms on my phone just so I made sure, because there was one time I slept through my alarms and I woke up and there was sunlight outside, which made me panic because there's not supposed to be sunlight outside when I wake up when I'm working the morning show. But I would have another clock in my bathroom that would go off so that I could hear. So I would have to actually get up out of my bed and go and turn it off, which means I have to be awake now. And so, I know what Bennett was go through, and Paul. I know what they go through. Not as much as them because they've been doing it for a much longer time, but it's not easy to wake up every morning as early as they do and bring it as well. Not that easy at all. And we appreciate them for that. Let's see. We've talked about the grass. We've talked about the radio. Let's talk about second base real quick, because second base is a pretty, I guess, not easy position to figure out, but I did a lot of thinking about second base for the Padres in 2025. And it's, as I said, going to be a short conversation because I think there are very few options, but the number one option for second base in 2025 would be to keep Xander Bogaerts there. He's done the work all year. I think he felt a little bit more comfortable at second base as the season goes along. He didn't look as comfortable when he went back to shortstop after Kim got hurt, but I think Xander Bogaerts is the perfect second baseman for this team. And you may say, why perfect? Well, because he is on the team and he makes some good money, and they're going to play him. They're not going to just forget about him. He makes $25 million, I believe. Before I go into that, I should actually go look to make sure he's making $25 million. But he has one of the highest contracts on the team. So you're not going to just say you can't play defense, we'll just put you at DH. He's going to be playing in the field, and second base is the one spot I think that he can go. Yes, he's making $25 million this year. So that is a lot of money. They're going to try and get their money's worth out of Xander Bogaerts. Now, there's also the option of Jake Cronenworth could do it too, and I do like Jake Cronenworth at second base because when you look at him, he's rated higher among second basemen, and so when you're playing a power position like first base and you're not getting the power numbers, then it's going to rank you a lot lower. So when you look at first basemen around the league, Jake Cronenworth is not up there because they're first basemen that are traditional first basemen that have higher power numbers. But Jake Cronenworth, when he moves to second, he puts himself a little bit higher on that list because second basemen don't normally hit for big power. And not that Jake Cronenworth hits for big power, but he has power. I mean, he definitely has enough pop in his bat to hit some home runs, and we saw it last year. And again, I think Jake improved last year. I don't think it was up to everyone what they wanted to see. But last year, he hit 241. He had 17 home runs. He had 83 RBIs, which is a lot. 83 RBIs is not bad. His OPS plus, though, was 99, which means that he was 1 point below an average player. So you got to be a more than average player if you're Jake Cronenworth. And if you are playing first base, you just have to realize, the Padres have to realize, and I'm sure they realize, that they're just not going to get that production there. They're going to have to get it elsewhere. They're going to have to get it from their right field position, which is Fernando Tatis Jr. They're going to have to get it with Manny Machado. They're going to have to get it with Jackson Merrill. Can he come back and hit over 20 home runs again? I think so. I don't see any indication that he's slowing down at all, or he reached his ceiling. I think there's only one way for him, and that's up. And so if he hits the same amount of home runs next year, I'm not going to be that surprised. And so that's why you can have someone like Jake Cronenworth at first base without all the power, because Jackson Merrill's hitting 24 home runs. He ended up with 292 batting average. He had 90 RBIs and 16 stolen bases. That is one solid rookie season, and I am looking forward to seeing what he can do next year. If he hits 292, 24 home runs, drives in 90 RBIs next year, I'm going to take that. Even though it's the same as this year, that's still an incredible season for a very, very young player. But back to the second base thing, I just think Xander Bogaerts is going to be fit into that position, and they've already kind of sort of made things happen around the second base position so they keep Xander there. And even when Ha-Seong Kim went out early, Xander Bogaerts stayed at second for a little bit to see if they could get Ha-Seong Kim back. They didn't want to move him over after moving him from short back to second. So they have really tried different things with the second base position. And then lastly, another option, as always with this team, AJ Preller can make a trade. I mean, it's very easy. We talked about it with the shortstop position. AJ Preller can make a trade for a shortstop, although Jim Bowden from The Athletic predicted that the Padres re-sign Ha-Seong Kim, and they re-sign Jurickson Merrill. That would be sweet. Jurickson Profar. I do expect them to re-sign Jurickson Profar. I did not expect for them to re-sign Ha-Seong Kim. So that would be a major surprise for me if we're getting news at some point that Ha-Seong Kim has he's accepted a new contract, or he's done the mutual option thing with the Padres, or the Padres give him a new contract. I think that's something we need to look for as well. And then there's just free agents aren't the free agents that are out there for second base just don't really speak to me. I'm sure that there are some younger guys out there that are up and coming, but right now I feel like they need someone who is ready to play right now. This is the window. These are the times that they need to take advantage of winning. And it's got to happen now, because the window is going to close at some point. And when that window closes, it's going to be very sad. And hopefully there's like 2 or 3 championships to cry over. That doesn't make any sense. Hopefully there's just 2 or 3 championships at the end of the window. And who knows? Maybe the window expands. Maybe they get some new players and Jackson Merrill becomes a massive superstar. It would all be great. It would all be great. Dominic says, I'm not worried about Merrill at all, really. Kid is special. Yes, kid is special. I mean, I don't know many people that can come into Major League Baseball at the age of 21 and do what he did in a new position. We've been over that so many times. Here on the Skraby Show, here on Gwen and Chris, here on the station. And in the middle of November, it's like, I think it's November 15th or the 18th. It's one of those 2 dates, but they are going to announce the Rookie of the Year then. And then we can also probably be mad then. I'm going into it with a positivity, but I don't know that Jackson Merrill's going to get the nod. I would personally vote for him to get the nod. Come on. You know I would. I know everybody out there would, but can the voters do it? We'll see. All right, when we get back, fantasy football advice and an update on the Aztecs. You're listening to the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan.
Quinn and
final segment of the week here on 97.3 The Fan, the Skraby Show. I'm Matt Skraby. Thank you for joining me for the last 15 minutes of the week here on the station. It's been kind of slow with the Padres being done. It's been kind of slow with the World Series being over. So we are fully in baseball offseason now. And there is plenty of baseball to come, but we're going to have to wait a little bit. I know the GM meetings are happening. I know that the winter meetings are going to happen here in about a month and a half or so, maybe 5 weeks away. They're in Dallas, and we'll have coverage for you there whenever they do happen. So stick with us, and we'll give you all the Padres news that you need. Let's see. We're going to go into the fantasy football segment, advice segment. Now, I'm going to disclaimer this right now and say, if you follow my advice, I am not responsible for your loss or for your player playing bad, okay? I already feel bad enough when I make the wrong decision on my own, but these are just collective thoughts. There's no real right or wrong way to do things. Fantasy sports are all luck for the most part. I mean, you have to put yourself in a place to have luck, but it seems like winning a fantasy championship is very, very lucky. And last year, when I won the Odyssey Fantasy Football League, there was some luck involved, for sure. I also had CeeDee Lamb and Breece Hall and Lamar Jackson, so that also put me in a good spot. But I made it all the way and won because of the luck involved. So let's get into it. I know Joseph's listening right now. Joseph sent me a tweet with his roster and said, what are your thoughts on this trade I pulled off? I traded away Tank Dell, Deebo Samuel, and Jerome Ford for A.J. Brown and Tyler Algier. Now, I will say A.J. Brown is great. I mean, he is top 5 wide receivers in the league just based on pure skill. And I like that you were able to get him. Trading away Tank Dell, Deebo Samuel for A.J. Brown, I like. You also offloaded Jerome Ford, who's been hurt, also not getting the same run that he has, so getting Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson's backup. Tyler Algier has had a pretty decent year. I can't say decent, but for what he has been, when he has been given the opportunity to run the ball, he has been pretty good. He has only one game over 100 yards, but he's also catching the ball as well. And if this is a PPR league, he's going to give you a couple points with the catches. The one thing I'll say is Deebo Samuel is going to be a focal point of the 49ers. Tank Dell, I guess Nico Collins will be back next week, but I feel like you trading Tank Dell and Deebo Samuel basically for A.J. Brown was a good move. You just really bolstered your roster. You now have Kyler Murray, Malik Neighbors, Terry McLaurin, Bijan Robinson, Brian Robinson Jr., and again, that's why you have Tyler Algier handcuffed to Bijan Robinson. Tucker Kraft, A.J. Brown, and Jalen Waddle is your team. So that's a pretty solid lineup, I gotta say. Your bench is not bad either. You got Khalil Shakir, Tank Bigsby, who's been really good. But I like that trade for you, Joseph. It's going to help you in ways that you never thought. Having A.J. Brown doing what he can do on top of Malik Neighbors and Terry McLaurin, love it. Love it. Rod says you gave up too much, my humble opinion. Joseph said, I just didn't want to deal with Deebo always dealing with little injuries every week. Hey, I don't blame you, Joseph, at all, because Deebo does have his nicks and cuts all the time, actually. I should also say that the Aztecs are at halftime, and Boise State scored another touchdown. It's 35-10. I think that's the last update I'm going to be giving you. All right, Frank has one. It's not an actual question. Why can't my team have more than one IR slot? Because I need it with my luck. I think a lot of leagues have at least 2 IR slots. I would petition for your league to have 2 IR slots because there are a lot of injuries, especially early on in the season. I know that in one of my leagues, the league I've been in longest with my friends, We have 3 IR spots, and we used to have 2, but now we have 3. And the reason we expanded it was COVID. So if a player had COVID, then we had 2 COVID spots and 1 IR spot, and then we just kind of made it 3 IR spots, which is kind of a lot, but it never hurts to put someone on IR. I think 2 is probably the right amount of IR spots. I think 3 is a little bit too much, especially in like a 12-team league, because if you're in a 12-team league, players are already scarce as it is on the waiver wire, and it's not fun when someone just hoards a bunch of players all the time. Let's see. Yes, Frank. Sorry. I was reading Frank's to make sure you didn't have any more questions, but Frank petitioned for at least 2 IR spots. J-Mac says, would you trade Lamar Jackson for some wide receiver help? Let me go look at his wide receivers. He got Marvin Harrison Jr., he's got Elijah Moore, and on the bench you got Deontay Johnson. I would put him in. Quentin Johnson. McMillan was a good pickup for you because of Chris Godwin being out and also Mike Evans being out. You have the Eagles defense on the bench. You got Sam Darnold. So basically what you're saying is, would you trade Lamar Jackson and put Sam Darnold as your starter to get some wide receiver help? I say no. Never trade someone like Lamar Jackson. I won a championship with Lamar Jackson last year, and it was mainly because Lamar Jackson scores a ton of points, and you will be so happy later in the year when they're really getting down to the nitty-gritty and they're trying to either make the playoffs or solidify a playoff spot. You're going to love Lamar Jackson. I would definitely not trade Lamar Jackson. Although I would put Deontay Johnson in your lineup over Elijah Moore. Deontay Johnson's going to Baltimore. I know that it's going to be kind of a learning curve, but mainly Deontay Johnson is there to catch the deep ball, or he's there for support. So maybe I could see you not playing him this week just to see how it works out. Maybe you even play Quentin Johnson if he does play. I know he's questionable. Quentin Johnson, they're playing the Browns. Browns are 27th against wide receivers. I would not play Elijah Moore, though, if I'm you, J-Mac. I would not play for Elijah Moore. They're playing against the Chargers. Like it or not, Chargers have one of the best pass defenses in the league. I like your tight end spot. Cade Otton, 2 touchdowns last week. Travis Etienne, hopefully he plays. DeAndre Swift is also a good running back to have, a good flex to have. So I like this team. Marvin Harrison Jr., though, is kind of annoying because he made all this big deal before the year about how he didn't want people to buy his jersey unless he got it. I don't want to put false things out there, but he did make a big deal about things that normal rookies just sign, and he's had a really rough year. I think he's only had like one. He's had maybe 2 games where he's shown his potential. But also, if you sit Marvin Harrison Jr., it's one of those things like, could you stomach having him go off while he's on your bench? Maybe. But again, Elijah Moore, get him out of there. Put either Quentin Johnston or Deontay Johnson, Quentin Johnston or Deontay Johnson in there. Do not trade Lamar Jackson. Brandon says, would you start Zay Flowers or Rachaad White? So we're staying with Baltimore with Zay Flowers. And Zay Flowers has had he's had a really good year. Zay Flowers is a really good wide receiver. He's a little inconsistent, but you're going to have to live with that. He's 12th in yards, or receiving yards this year. He's only scored 1 touchdown on the year, which stinks. But he's getting a lot of targets. He's had 61 targets on the year. And last week he got 12 targets against the Browns. 7 catches, 115 yards. In the last 4 games, Zay Flowers has had 3 of those 4 over 100 yards receiving. So Zay Flowers is in the lead. Rachaad White, on the other hand, I don't trust any of the Buccaneers' backfield. Now, I say that he's probably going to have like 300 yards in the game, but he just doesn't get the run that you need, and you cannot rely on him catching passes in order to score your points, because that's what he does. He catches a lot of passes, but he also has a 3.8 yard per carry average this year, which is decent, but he's not getting the carries that you want to see out of him if you're going to start him. So in this case, the one thing about Zay Flowers, Pat Surtain is going to be back for the Broncos, and Pat Surtain is one of the top cornerbacks in the league. He usually goes one-on-one with the best receiver, which will be Zay Flowers. So you might have to deal with Pat Surtain covering Zay Flowers, which could be good for Deontay Johnson, because then Deontay Johnson's gonna be open because the best receiver is not on, or best cornerback is not on him. Joseph says, I would start White if it's a full point PPR league, which we don't know, so that's a good point. But still, you're not getting any rushing ability out of him. Last week, 29 yards rushing. He had a touchdown receiving, but he's only had 3 touchdowns on the entire year. This is a tough one, Brandon, but I would say if it's a PPR league, I would say go Zay Flowers. I don't know why I'm feeling Zay Flowers more so than Rachaad White, the running back for the Buccaneers. They're playing the Chiefs. The Bucs are on Monday Night Football, and the Chiefs' defense has been pretty good, gotta say. They're way better than I thought they were going to be. So I would go with Zay Flowers and just hope for the best. That's all I can do is hope for the best in that situation. Let's get some more out there. Rod's been asking for a fantasy segment for a while, so I wanted to give this to Rod. My son and I play in a league with his homies. He needs a quarterback, and I need a defense. I'm asking for the Bills, not an animal, Skraby. Haha, Rod. And he'll get Tua. The question is, will his homies see this as a good trade or veto the trade? Love the show, bro. Rod, I love it. I think this is interesting. I've never seen a defense being traded straight up for a quarterback. I don't see it as a big deal. I don't see Tua as one of the top quarterbacks in fantasy football. So if you need a defense and you can't pick one off of waivers, I say do it. I don't think his homies will see it as maybe they'll see it as a good trade for him, but I don't think they'll veto that trade. Dominic says flex Tyler Lockett or Rashad Bateman. Tyler Lockett has been interesting this year, but DK Metcalf is out, so he's going to get a little bit more run there. I did see a couple fantasy football articles about Rashad Bateman being a guy to pick up this week because he'll probably be between the second and the third receiver. The second, it goes Zay Flowers, then it might go Deontay Johnson or Rashad Bateman. Rod says Lockett is going to break out. Maybe. Jackson Smith and Jigba is still there. Noah Fant is out as well. So that could be, man, I hate. Joseph says Bateman is now the 4th option on the Ravens. I don't know. I read a lot about Rashad Bateman being the guy to pick up this week. And I had Tyler Lockett last year. And it was a very interesting and difficult season with Tyler Lockett. It was very up and down. And I do think he's getting older. I really do. Diesel says go Hawkinson or Hunter Henry. Hawkinson's back from injury. I go Hunter Henry just because I'm not sure how much TJ Hawkinson is going to play. See, Joseph said he had a question earlier in the chat. Let me go back up and see. Based off the team you just saw I had, would you trade Waddle, Bigsby, and Shakir for DeAndre Swift and Marvin Harrison Jr.? Tank Bigsby is going to be... I don't like making trades. DeAndre Swift is really good. I don't know how much the Bears are going to be playing late in the year. I say don't do it. Marvin Harrison Jr. is too much of a wild card right now. He could be really good for your team, but he also could just get one catch for 7 yards. Blue Meanie doesn't like me talking about fantasy football. Says blah, 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 fantasy football, blah, blah. Diesel says Lockett is a 10 to 15 point lock. I'm going to have to check on this. I'm going to move I'm going to write this down. Lockett. I got to check and see if he's going to be a 10 to 15 point lock. We talking PPR? We talking half point PPR? I think the segment was okay. First time I did it, so I am thinking I'll do it again. But I need some questions. So everybody out there, please send me those questions and I'll try and get this all settled down. All right. I didn't even get to my daily gripe. I got so lost into the fantasy football. Here we go.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
I think what I need to do next time, though, is I need to have these things submitted before so I can kind of look at them. I did look at them when they came in earlier, but some of the new ones I didn't get a chance to look at. So I think I need to maybe have people submit them earlier, but I think I'm going to do it again. Thanks to everybody who submitted some. Pods fan, I said, do you have any fantasy football questions? Yeah, I got one. Why are you so handsome? Why are you so handsome? That's very nice of you. And we're heading into the weekend, so I'll take the confidence and the compliment. All right, Daily Gripe. I've already said it today, and I'm running out of time. I'm really running out of time, but it's the AI texting. I can tell when people are going to text me something that they had AI fix. I would like to talk to you. I would not like to talk to the computer. And that's it. Stop texting me from the AI. We're not actually talking anymore. I'm talking to a computer. You're talking to a human, but I'm talking to a computer. AI is the worst. Thanks to everybody who listened. Ken Duncan says, love your show. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. And Diesel says maybe Thursday afternoon the cutoff. Maybe. I'm going to figure this out over the weekend. Thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Talk to you on Monday.
Guys, it's Annie. Sip your pumpkin spice latte.